Hey, welcome to the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we are back for our first official episode now after we've done our brief talk about our plans for the year and introduced our new co-host Griffin. So today we are talking about the 2025 horror movie Together. And starting off the episodes with a horror movie was not originally intended. I thought about saving it for October because we have a guest who's coming in October for the Halloween stuff who kept mentioning to me this movie and was like, it's so good, you got to see it, kept hyping it up. And I was like, I'll get around to it eventually. And so it's just been on my mind, so I was like, sure, we'll do it off that rip because she wanted to save her slot to talk about another movie for October, which is perfectly fine. Yeah. And I feel like for my general thoughts of it, it's a good movie, but I fear maybe my expectations were too high because of that hype getting set up. So I was a little let down on a couple spots, but overall, it's a good movie. Griffin, what are your general thoughts?
So my general thoughts were like, originally texted me saying like, oh, you want like watch Together? I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I didn't do a whole lot of research on it. Just like I saw it like kind of got good reviews and was like just released this year. So I was just I kind of had a little bit high expectations for it, just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. It looks really high quality and whatnot. And I love the movie, honestly. Yeah, I also got a couple of complaints about it, but get into that later.
All right. So the film stars Dave Franco as Tim and Allison Brie as Millie, who are our two leads. They are a couple. They've kind of been struggling in their relationship a bit. They make this move going from city life out to this cabin that's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And they're kind of adjusting on what it's like to be together but alone, I guess, because they are pretty much in the middle of nowhere in this house. It also stars Damon Harriman as Jamie, who is one of the neighbors and also Millie's boss, I believe.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
There are more actors, but those three are the main ones. For me, with the acting, I wasn't really on board with it at first. It felt a little stale in the first few minutes. I think like first 15 to 30 minutes, I just wasn't behind it. But then more as the movie went on, we kind of got more into it. We saw their relationship through struggle, and that's where it kind of felt more genuine, you know, where one person would pull away a little bit for whatever reason it may be, and then the other would kind of reach out and try and draw them back in and make things work. So I think that dynamic they did a strong job with.
I think like I feel like for like the entire movie though, it was just kind of like it started out with like one person like kind of acting insane, and then like the other would kind of draw him back in, and that would go like back and forth a couple times, just kind of like that.
Yeah. And with this being a horror movie, I feel like because I'm not a really big horror film fan, really. I don't go out of my way. Yeah. And I don't really go out of my way to watch a lot of horror movies, but the more that I have watched and the more that I've gotten acclimated to that genre, the more things that I've been aware to kind of keep my eye out for. And the two main things with that are cinematography and sound design. And the sound design front is shorter than the cinematography, so I'll start with that. I like that the soundtrack is a lot of these elongated strings that are distorted at the same time, right. So it helps add this eerie feeling as you're watching everything. And that ends up connecting back into the cinematography because there's a lot of like lighting and shadows with this. There's a lot of scenes where most of the horror from this comes from nighttime scenes more often than not. The scenes that you generally feel like scared in, or scenes that are dark, right. You know, there's dim lighting. So having these shadows that are dramatized with this elongated and distorted strings makes you feel the fear there. And I appreciate that, especially in this one scene where Tim is in bed and he sees like a vision of his mom with a creepy face or whatever, crawls up through the covers, and like he pulls the covers up like he's getting ready to go to bed. And
she's
as he
there.
Yeah, like as he lifts the covers up, her face just appears in a jump scare, and then he wakes up from the dream. What makes that scene stand out to me with the lighting and the shadows there is that it's hard to see her face and make out what her facial features are, but what's very clear is the pupils. That is one of the most like scary things that you've ever had as a kid, where you're like, oh, it's dark. I can't see what's
Right.
up there. And
The monster in my
seeing
bed.
it's just seeing these like, two white eyes staring back at you is unsettling. So I think it gets a lot right there.
Yeah, and like with the sound design too, like right when she like pulls up the covers, he's just like, that's where like the strings really just like really burst out at you, and it's just like, well, I was not expecting that. I mean, she's at the other side of the bed. Of course, you're gonna kind of expect her to be under the covers when you pick them up, but just like the strings really just kind of like add to that like whoa jump scare effect. Like especially in like the hallway scene too, like the sound design in there was just like the music was really like creepy. Like oh my gosh, they're getting closer and closer and closer together, and it's like what's gonna happen next? Like I think for like literally like for that part of the scene, like I was not taking notes, but my eyes were glued to the screen. Like the music was keeping me like locked in on the movie.
Yeah, and horror is a broad genre too that I've come to realize over the years. Is that made me sound so old? I'm 19. I promise I'm not that old, guys. But the more that I've like exposed myself to that genre, I've noticed that there's different types of horror. There's like psychological. There's I don't know what I guess just jump
Slasher
scare
horror.
Yeah, slasher horror. There's like jump scare horror,
Body horror.
Yeah,
like this,
which is actually what this movie is, and that was my point here. Is that this is falling under that body horror category. The reason it's called Together, I guess, in part, is that the two end up stumbling upon
like a cave,
Yeah.
or like a chapel.
it. Almost
There was a chapel.
Yeah, they
above
said it was
but
a
then
collapsed chapel in a
collapsed,
cave
yeah.
thing. I also hope we're not spoiling too much. This
Right,
movie
it's
did
just
come
like-
out this year, so
We're
we're trying not to spoil too much details. This stuff, I think, is general enough that it's fine. But
you'll learn about it if you watch it.
yeah, but in this space, it kind of reminded me of, because I made a note of this too. It made me think of the blowhole from Octo and The Last Jedi, Star Wars. You remember that? Like the Force Mirror cave that Rey stumbles upon? Seeing that like hole in the opening of this movie, I was like, is that not just the same thing from Last Jedi? It's just a little connection. But yeah, so they end up finding this pit, and there's water inside of the hole. And if you drink the water, it makes you gravitate towards
Fused
people
together.
Yeah. So you become one amalgamated creature thing.
Yeah.
And so you can assume from two people and bodies and entities merging how gory that can be at some point.
Yeah.
And this movie does a really, really good job
Honestly,
of it.
yeah. I was expecting like I was kind of like half expecting like those cheesy makeup, fake blood everywhere, but like the whatever effects they use are like even if it was practical somehow, it's like really well done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was practical because there's a scene. Well, I guess throughout you get a good glimpse of what it looks like as characters kind of merge together, right, and become one, and it just feels so palpable. It's
like you're literally like fused together. Like
yeah. So I applaud the prosthetic work on that. I wish we saw a little more of it though, because I kind of noticed that they hesitated almost on it. Not that maybe hesitate's not the right word, but they shied away from it at times.
Definitely.
There was a lot of the shots that you see of it are just people's arms like connecting, right?
They're not like full on body merging together.
Yeah. It's a lot of similar merging parts, I guess. I mean, so some more variety would be nice, but I overall wasn't too fussed over it. I do think they get
I think the most variety like we got was like with the two dogs in the opening scene, like how they drank from the pool, and then like and later you kind of saw them merge together.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, like other than like the main two characters, you saw like maybe like one or two other instances of like the merging happen, but otherwise, no, it wasn't really like the biggest element, which actually kind of surprised me.
Yeah. Also, before I forget about it too, because I did forget to mention it just a second, this is a relatively small cast as well.
Yeah.
Looking on IMDb, there's only 20 listed and named actors on this, which is short in my mind.
It really
I feel like,
is, yeah.
But I also don't think we really needed any more. Really, I feel like everybody that's here has a reason to be here and a purpose. So
they didn't overcast
or undercast for that matter.
yeah.
All Are there any things that you also thought that were positives before we get into some more things that kind of like detracted from me a little bit? Because that was most of my positives there.
I kind of like the exposition of like the whole like the kind of like the backstory of like the cave and whatnot. Just like okay.
No, you're good.
Okay,
You're good. You can have your opinion.
Yep.
You can have your opinion, even if it's wrong. I'm kidding.
Off camera, I will take care of you. So basically, with the exposition, it's kind of presented through like old VHS tapes and like, it's kind of like I feel like a nod to like analog horror in a way, just like kind of like old tapes being shown and like, I feel like it wasn't done like overly like too much or anything. But like but it's also like kind of just happens in a way too. It's just like it's still well done. Like I like how they explained it and like the lore behind the chapel and like I mean, they didn't get really too deep into like what's actually causing like the fusion. It's just like, oh, it's just some weird place that exists.
And I guess I'll circle back to the exposition here in a second, but with what you just said about how the horror of it works, it's also weirdly psychological at the same time. There's one scene specifically that you and I had been talking about is where Tim is showering and Millie's driving into town. And as her car like turns down the road and stuff, Tim in the shower is also like turning.
Like
and
he's like thrown around. He's being like
ragdolled almost.
Yeah, ragdolled.
And I kept trying to figure out what was causing that because it wasn't very clear to me. No. At least maybe I'm just smooth brained and couldn't figure it out. But initially I'd thought that it was something to do with the pool that they had touched and drank from. But then that didn't match anything we had saw prior because Millie wasn't feeling that way. And then we know that Tim had some prior condition thing that he was diagnosed for. So right. I don't know if it was part of that and he was like seizing out almost or what it was. I don't know. It was just kind of like not clear to me.
It was just kind of like thrown in for the sake of being thrown in. It wasn't like really explained like...
And I think that scene's well edited. That's probably one of the better scenes in the movie for me. But
cinematography is like absolutely amazing, I think.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. The reasoning for it felt odd, if that makes sense. But back to the exposition part of it. If you watched any of last year, you know I hate exposition dumping. And
I did not watch that, but
it's horrendous, brother.
Add that to my watch list.
Yeah, maybe. If anybody has a monologue, it's usually fine because you're monologuing, right? You're not like expo dumping.
Right.
But this is a lot of expo dumping. And I will give it some credit. It's not that bad. It's actually pretty manageable because there's a lot of say dog, see dog is what it's kind of called, where if you say something, you should show it as well. And so if characters are expo dumping about something and they don't show it, I get annoyed because I'm like, I don't care. You could have shown it and then I would be happy. This movie does show it, but they don't show it as much as I would have liked. It's maybe like one or two cuts and then it's done based on what characters are talking about. But with what you said with the VHS example is actually really cool as well.
Yeah.
That kind of expo dumps by giving that VHS analog horror nod. So I wasn't really as upset with that scene as much as I was with characters themselves. Characters themselves expo dumping, basically. But one other thing, too, that kind of bothers me is if you watched our Kept Woman episode, there's a twist in this that's just really obvious and just immediately flagged me, reminding me of that movie, as that movie was. And I was like, surely it's going to happen, right? Like, it's got to. And then I went the whole movie and nothing happened. And I was like, oh, maybe I was wrong. No, I was right. It eventually happened. And it didn't have any weight, really. It was just kind of there.
The twist was just like, oh, okay. It's like, it's.
Yeah, like it didn't really add anything to the context of the overall story in my mind. And I was watching that too. And the cinematography of that, there's like two characters that are interacting. One gets tripped and then gets up and runs. And with the way that it works, they're positioned in completely different spots than they would be when the camera cuts and the character gets up and runs.
Yeah.
So that kind of bother me, but I feel like that's just me looking for things to complain about. So I can't be too mad. But mainly the twist that this movie has is just painfully obvious.
It's like,
and maybe it's in part because it's such a small cast, so like you see more people more often, and you can kind of gather it. But
once you see the introduction of the character, it's like you kind of know.
Yeah, he immediately reminded me of the guy from Catwoman, but I'm not gonna say more than that for avoiding spoilers. The main thing that bothers me with this movie is its ending and message, I think. And the message I'm going to get to here in a bit with the deep thought, but for the ending more specifically, this movie has a very strong overall theme about togetherness, right, in your relationships and stuff. And to me, watching this movie and watching them kind of resist this merge with each other signaled to me that either one, it's a reluctance to fully give yourself over into a relationship like that, or two, which is what I kind of lean more thinking of, is that it's important to have your own identity in your relationships, right? Like most people refer to a couple or whoever as like one entity almost, but if you're just one entity, you aren't your own person. You don't have your own personality, your own individuality or anything. And that was a pretty compelling, like, deeper message to me. And then the ending, which I'm also not going to clarify spoiler-wise, is it kind of undoes that almost, where it's like, oh, but it's actually not that bad if you're not your own person. And I was like, I don't know if I vibe with that, because it feels like it was added on or changed, because there is a moment right before the last two scenes, which are this ending that like throws everything off. But right before those two scenes start, there's a perfect cutoff point for this movie that still leaves things ambiguous like the actual ending of the movie does. Right. So for me, I don't know why they changed that. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, am I missing the message on this, or like, was it just weird?
I think like the message, like, yeah, like obviously the movie plays into like relationships, kind of like, you know, being your own person. Cause like for the entire movie, you see, Tim and Millie like just resisting the temptation, just merged together. And like the whole like, exposition dump with like the VHS taste was saying like, oh, it's so beautiful to be like, you know, become one person, literally or not. And like they spend like the entire movie like, you know, thinking they're their own person, but then let me start that over. They spend like the whole movie thinking like they're their own person, but like at the same time, and like they're trying to like keep their identities separate from one another, but then like in the end they still like come together. Like eventually they just kind of give in to like not being your own person. The message was very mixed for me too. It's just like it's confusing, but
and that confusion leads into my deep thought. But before we get to that, we kind of breezed through this episode. I'm not gonna lie, we're at 20 minutes right now.
Yeah, no, we're
crazy.
Like,
anyway, but is there anything else you want to mention before we get into that deep thought?
Don't think so. No.
Alrighty then. So,
oh wait, no, hold on. Yes, I did have one.
All right, let's hear it.
So one other con I had, and it's very off topic from what we're about to talk about. But like with all like the nightmare sequences, he had like all the dream sequences. He had like, he just seemed to like, when he like suddenly woke up, he had like almost like no reaction to them. Kind of, it's like you think like if you pull up the covers and like there's like a scary face there, it's just like you said, like jolt awake. It's just like he had like the most
stoic face
ever.
That ties back into like what I was saying earlier too, with how in the beginning it felt kind of underwhelming and stale almost.
Right.
But I think what saved it for me is just seeing Alison Brie and Dave Franco interact with each other.
Yeah.
As opposed to on their own. Because on their own, they definitely feel a little bland at times.
Yeah.
They have a couple moments in this movie where like individually they'll stand out. But yeah, definitely was strange for lack or little reaction.
Yeah. And like, with like the hallway scene too, like my eyes were focused on the screen for like the entire thing, and like as they're like, you know, trying to resist each other being like pulled in, to each other. And then like the next scene, it almost feels like comedic, like they're like trying to like cut off their skin from each other, like they're trying to like separate. And it's just like the sudden shift in mood just kind of like was like, you just had this horrendous scene in the hallway, and now it's like you're trying to like separate it, and it's almost like comedic.
Right. So on to our deep thought now. If you're new and missed last episode, basically the deep thoughts are where I bring a question that is just a deep thought that I had during the movie, and we kind of discuss about it. There is no right or wrong answer ever for the deep thought. It's just genuinely just how we feel, what we're thinking, just kind of see how we interpret different things. So the question I have with this is tying back to the message that I thought the movie was trying to convey, where like it's important to be your own individual person while still being in your relationship and one being that way. So excluding my thoughts regarding the ending and how this message was handled, my deep thought is like, how often should you be together with your, you know what? I forgot we had those.
Yeah.
How often should you be together with your partner? And that's a very strange question to ask, because you would think that like in your relationship, oh, I love them, like I want to be with them all the time. And like, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, if you're doing that all the time, who are you? Like you as in your own person. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you thinking on that?
I'm too single for this question.
As the expert here, I'm kidding. But
yeah, get a load of this guy.
All right.
But I kind of think like it's good to have like, you know, your own hobbies, but it's also good to have like shared hobbies too. But it's just like, you know, finding the time to kind of like balance both is very important. And like, you still want to be your own person, obviously, but you also want to have like, you know, that commitment to your partner and like be able to like enjoy stuff with them and like enjoy time with yourself too.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I've seen other people's relationships, right? And some of them will be to the point where it's hard to guess that they're even dating, right? Where they're just so polar opposites of each other that it doesn't even make sense that they'd attract in the stereotypical way. It's just kind of confusing almost. I'm not trying to diss anybody. This sounds kind of mean, but
yeah, like,
I'm talking on a deeper level here. I'm not
you in particular, but yeah,
no, I'm not singling anybody out. But like, you get those moments where relationships, like, they're too different. They're too much of their own person that they don't get time to be together with each other and be one cohesive being that way, I guess, in like a spiritual sense almost. And then there's the opposite of that, where people are too focused on each other that all of their time is dedicated to each other. So then it gets to a point where like you're talking with them and it's
24/7.
Yeah. And it's wondering if you as a person are even your own person anymore. Like, for example, like, are you, I'm using a random name. I just off the top of my head,
Gordon.
Like, yeah. Like, are you Gordon or are you Gordon's partner? Right. Like, or yeah.
Like, are you your own person? Or are you like so entrapped within your relationship that you've like kind of like changed for your partner in a way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like good and bad change for your partners
Right.
too, right? Like, if they're asking you to be more open with them, that's a good change. You know, you want to have
Be
that
more
communication. Open, yeah. But if it's like, I want you to become full punk rock, like, then maybe chill out a little bit and have some individuality. Unless you're punk rock, then go for it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, thinking about my relationship, right? I feel like I'm on a soapbox. This is not good. But like, for mine, Cameron and I do like spending time together, but we also have enough time that we get to do our own things and live our own lives at the same time. So we get this nice balance of being individuals, but then kind of like meeting up in the middle almost, and just kind of balancing each other out at the same time. So for me, I think it's to like answer the question, I guess. For me, it's important that you spend time with your partner, but not your life. No, that's not the right way to say that. But how do I explain it? I'm doing good with deep thoughts. This is the first one.
Yeah.
Like, if you're with a partner long term, yes, you should want to spend your rest of your life with them. Like, that's your partner. I meant more so like your entire being, right?
like how you spend your free time, or like
yeah,
kind of
yeah. You don't want to give yourself over to that relationship and make the relationship control you as much as you want to be a equal part of that relationship with your partner.
You still want to be you, but you also want to, be with your partner too.
Exactly. And I think that for me is how I would answer that question, is you need a balance between yourself and each other.
Yes. It's like you should be your own person. Your partner should be their own person, but you two should also like still have that commitment to each other too.
Yeah. Deep thought, ladies and gentlemen. Deep thought. Yep. Well, I think I'm out of notes. I still have a couple things written down. It's nothing important. There was only one other thing that was just like a little hidden detail that I noticed that like made my inner nerd go crazy. But there's a scene where Tim is on the computer looking at a online newspaper called The Chronicle. And the minute that screen popped up, I was like, oh my God, that's Snow. And for those of you who don't know, the Daily Eastern News uses Snow, this like software website thing, to make the website that we use. And so the moment I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's just the exact same layout. It's just different fonts, different colors, different like border sizes and stuff. Like it was just kind of, I don't know. It stuck out to me, but yeah, nothing really of important note. With that being said, is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't believe so, no.
All right. You think we're on to ratings?
I think we're on to ratings. So
right. What would you give it? Give it a little bit.
I would. All right. So my rating is a 3.5 out of 5. I think like overall amazing movie, but obviously, it's still got its flaws with like mildly with like the Expedition, or like the change of tone, or just like the acting being a tad still at the beginning, but it picked up later on, and like I really love the lore and just like kind of how all that worked out.
I think for me, I'm also going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. It is a good movie in my mind. But what made it good for me was less so the story and the lore, but more the horror design to it, which as I've said multiple times, like slowly come to appreciate more. The cinematography, the sound design, and like the prosthetics for the body horror are really well done. And I think some of that body horror design may be CG as well, because not all of it looks to be practical.
Yeah.
But regardless, it still does all that stuff good. Acting-wise, was kind of iffy on, but it got better as it went, and I wasn't too fussed over it. The main things that bothered me were mostly just like the slight exposition dumbing. I wish there was more of that. And then I wish there was more clarity, I guess, on what the overall message of this was, because it felt very clear-cut beforehand, and then the ending just kind of throws this curveball that's a little unnecessary in there. But yeah, overall, good movie.
Yeah, very good movie.
Well, with nothing else,
I believe that's it.
That is us for the Two Dudes Talk Movies. I am Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.